Hey learning community, today's topic is one of the biggest predictors of children's early reading success, yet it's so little talked about, and it's not phonics. There's such a big buzz about phonics, but actually phonemic awareness is something that needs to come at least, if not first, at the same time as we develop phonics in children. Phonics is the actual connection between the sound to the written letter. We call that the alphabetic principle. But phonemic awareness really focuses on developing the child's auditory ability. So today I'm going to go in to how you can develop that and why it's important. But before I continue, just a little reminder to help me get out all this great free information. Give a like if you find this helpful, share with those around you that you know can find this useful as well, and subscribe so you never miss free learning opportunities several times every week. So back to the phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is actually the child's ability to isolate and manipulate the sounds in our language. Now there is a broader category, phonological awareness, but for today's purposes, we're going to focus on phonemic awareness, which phonemes are the sounds in our language. And for children to be able to decode our alphabetic language, it is first critical that they are able to manipulate and master those sounds. And so when we talk about children being able to do this, it seems quite mysterious, but there is really simple and easy ways to do this, and it is absolutely very influential in children's success in their early and emergent reading. So I'm going to show you a quick little trick. And again, we're not going to use the written letters. We're going to just focus on using blocks to represent and denote the sounds. And once again, before I get into that, just to remind you, while we have 26 letters in our alphabet, and that seems like a lot, and it certainly is when we're trying to get these little learners to memorize and remember all of their sounds and their letters, there are actually 40 phonemes in our language. And so when we look at it from that perspective, we can really see that this is super, super important. So when I do a phonemic awareness lesson with children, again, I use initially blocks, or you might see me doing a kinesthetic or movement action with children. And this helps them to be able to concretely represent those sounds without having to connect it to the actual letter sound. And this again is a question I get a lot. You know, I hear parents say, my kid knows all of their letters, but I can't get them to blend. They know their sounds, but I can't get them to blend them together to read a word. And this is actually the magic trick that will help them. So what we do is we take usually either a 2-sound word or a 3-sound word, and we use the blocks to represent the sounds. And we can move those blocks around and really show children how language works. And that's the exciting part, is that it can be a game and it can be fun, and we can get children excited about learning. So I invite you to use whatever you have on hand. You don't need these fancy magnetic blocks. Spoiler alert, I got them so I can show my audience and those who benefit from these videos, and they can stick to a board that's upright. That's why I have fancy magnetic blocks. But you can use Legos, you can use Unifix cubes, you can use bottle caps, you can use whatever you have on hand, and you don't need to have a board that has the boxes. They're called Elkonin boxes. I actually used to draw those for my students, and eventually my students learned to draw them for themselves. So this can be done completely without spending a lot of money, or any money at all, really. You can use what you have on hand. So what I do is I take the blocks and we say the word first, and we listen to the sounds in the word. So for instance, I might take a really simple word like mat. At. And now I'm going to take a block, and notice that I use a different color for each sound, okay? Because I want children to, again, really focus on how those phonemes can be taken apart and separate from each other. So I would put in the first box, and t in the last box. And notice how I didn't say I'm putting the M or the M sound. I focused on the sound. What sound do you hear? Not what letter do you hear, what sound. We want children to really focus on those sounds. So that's one thing. Now I can take what I call my reading finger, and you can do this with your child at home too. At. And if they're having trouble blending, you can stretch it out. Mat, and then you blend it. Mat. That is a way to really help children start to master how to manipulate these sounds and be able to use them to read and spell eventually. Now, we can also take off that first sound. So we have the take it off, but I still have at. That's a little word inside my big word. And so we can see how we're showing children the way that language really works. I can add a sound at the beginning, a k, k, k sound. Notice I didn't say the letter name. I could put that at the beginning, and I still have my a and my t. But now I have a k, k, k up here. So let's go ahead and touch each block and say the sound. K, a, t. Now we're going to stretch it. Cat. Now blend it. Cat. And there's a real simple way to show children how those different sounds, those phonemes, work within our language structure. Before I go, I just want to remind you that children's play is really their way of preparing for life. And in this case, word play, rhymes, nursery rhymes, that is absolutely essential to developing the language skills in our children's ability to become fluent, successful readers that love to read. And with that, I'll see you next time when I teach to your child's superpowers, one child at a time.